Hi everyone! In this video we'll be taking a look at one of the templates I use for mastering in Nuendo, and some of the features that make my life a lot easier. This is my 10x5 template, meaning that we have 5 mix versions for each song, and 10 songs ready to go. The 5 mix versions all feed into this one group track. On the group track is where I can put any VSTs. By default, there's always an equilibrium and a Pro L2 at the bottom. You'll notice that the 4 alts are muted and the full mix and the group track have the solo defeat enabled. The solo defeat is just there to let me A-B with the ref mix and not have any clicks. The ref mixes sit at the bottom of my session on the ref mixes track, and these go out as separate output on my interface, which I can A-B with on my monitor controller, and also adjust the level of the ref mix on my monitor controller to level match with what I'm working on. Once I have the album laid out and ready to go, I'll use range markers to lay out each track. I'll then open up the markers window and I can label each track. In the latest version of Nuendo, there were some changes to the behavior of the soloing and muted, meaning that now the alt tracks need to be unmuted before exporting. I also turn off the solo defeat on the full mix before exporting. Going into the export window, there are many different ways to export the project. If you just want to export the full mix version for every song on the album, you'll want to be in the Single tab. From here, you'll select your main output, and then down under cycle markers, you'll select the various songs you want to export. The last thing you'll want to do is to change the naming scheme. An example would be to use the cycle marker name, and then if I remove the separator, you can see that everything will be properly named and ready to go, with the track name followed by GW master. If we export now, we'd get every song in the album in a separate file, everything properly named. If we want to export all the alts at the same time, things get a little more tricky. We'll start off by switching to the Multiple tab. In this case, you'll want each song to be its own export operation, but they can be done all at the same time by using the export queue. You'll start off by selecting all the tracks for a given track in the album. And then you'll want to select only the cycle marker range for that single track. Then you'll want to change the naming scheme. And this time you'll want to have the channel name. You'll see now that it's added TV at the end of the name, corresponding to the TV mix. The only thing to note is that the full mix will be named full mix at the end, so you can either do that as a separate operation for the entire album, or you can just go through and change the names after the files have been exported to just remove that full mix. The next thing you'll want to do is here where it says Effects, you'll want to select the Groups and Settings. What this means is that it'll solo through each track that you have going through the bus and print each one at a time. So this is really 5 export operations that it's doing. You can also change the output path in case you want to put alts in a separate folder or anything like that, so you don't have to move files around later. Once you're done setting everything up, just click the Add to Queue and you'll get a new operation added on. This will show all the files that will be generated from this export operation. You'll want to repeat this process for each song in the project. Keep in mind that these settings do get saved with the project, so if you save it into your template, you'll have this all ready to go for an album, and then you can just hit export. I've gone through and prepared the export operations for exporting 2 tracks from this project with all of the alts. You can see that first we're going to export the full mix for both songs, then we'll export all the alts for the first song, and all the alts for the second song. Now all we have to do is click the Start Queue Export, and you'll see it run through each file. Once it's done, we can take a look at the folder it exported to. You can see that we have the 2 main mixes for the first 2 tracks, and then we have all the alts in the alts folder, all properly named and ready to go. At this point, you could do any additional steps like src, which I use Rx for, and then QC all the files. Setting up all the export operations can take some time, but once it's set up and saved into your template, you can export all the alts for an entire album with everything properly named in one go. I hope this video helps. Feel free to send any questions you have.